Hmm. Bum, 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 bum. Brian Dimmick says, it feels like we should do the frame segments early in the episode. I don't see us coming back to the frame after the Kingslaying starts. It seemed like a distraction to the audience. You know, yeah, I mean, I agree with that.
So if we're only going to have it in the early part of the episode, the tie-in can be with the early material. And we don't have to worry about tying into the later material.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm sold. All right. That's still sufficient for the first 4 minutes of the episode. All right.
Yeah. Estelle in the Wild.
Okay. Right. So Act 1, we have to establish. I feel like, well, we have to do the Eonwe has to show up at the gate. As Feanor is leaving.
Are we doing that?
I can't think of any reason why we wouldn't do that.
Yeah, I mean, if the whole reason always going to say no is the Valor didn't permit it, we should have an explicit statement from the Valor showing up that the Noldor are aware of, like not just a statement of the Valor back among themselves. Right. So yeah, I guess you're right. That probably does need to happen. I just was concerned with, we're not showing the Valar meet in council until episode 3.
Right.
So, but that's okay. Like, Eonwe can speak without us knowing what the rest of the Valar are up to. That's acceptable. Right. Like, this is the Noldor's viewpoint. We'll see the Valar's viewpoint next time. So yeah.
Right. It's not like we haven't done that before.
Right. And I was just kind of thinking through the consequences and making sure we weren't like spoiling a scene later, because the worst kind of exposition is exposition the audience already knows about. Like,
yes, I know.
Characters sitting around talking about something, but when the audience is like, "Yes, you've told us this," it's
no. You know what's worse than that? What's worse than that is when the audience knows, and the characters all know, and we're just whatchamacallit?
Exposition for
we're recapping, essentially.
Yes. Let me just recap this for everyone randomly here in the middle of this pointless conversation.
Did you watch Firefly?
Yes.
Okay. The episode 2, Shepherd Book gives a recap of
episode 1.
Essentially, he gives a recap of what Simon did for his sister. Essentially, goes through the whole story. They were worried that they weren't because they were airing episode 2
out of order.
They were airing episode 2 first.
Yeah.
Which, when you saw it on TV, kind of made sense. It was a little awkward, but it kind of made sense. When you watch them actually in sequence, it is just painful to watch. It's like, dude. And he clearly, Ron Glass clearly is like not, because he's not selling it either. Like, he's not selling it as,
I'm saying this because they told me to say this. This is dumb.
Right. Yes, that's exactly.
That's unfortunate. Yeah, there definitely are scenes I've seen where the actors are like, oh, really? You want me to? Okay. Okay, I didn't call that scene, but now that you mention it, yeah, I could see how that would be. Yeah, so let's not do that.
Yeah.
Let's not recap anything.
Yeah. I hate that. So we get to, all right. So we should get some scenes of packing and leaving.
Mm-hmm.
Do we get the arrival of Eonwe seems like the major plot point, like the centerpiece of Act 1 to me.
There's a lot of other things going on too, though, that are also going to be significant later.
Yeah. No, I get that. What I mean is, like, that's like the kind of the inciting event. That's like when we establish the conflict of the episode.
Okay, sure. I can buy that.
So what we should have is, and we need to get the conversation between Olwe and Uinen in Act 1 as well.
Yeah, I wanted to establish always character in Act 1.
Yeah.
To me, that's the important part. But you're right; it's
Yeah.
not a plot point; it's a character point. So.
Right. It's a character. It's a character reintroduction because we haven't seen him in a bit.
Yes.
So we get we get tearful goodbyes, right?
Mm-hmm.
We get preparations to leave. We get a conversation with Finarfin, Fingolfin. I feel like you kind of have to have those four people, Eonwe and Anare. I feel like you have to have those four people in a room together, having that discussion.
Yeah, this is also
otherwise you have it twice.
Right, like you just kind of want to get it all out of the way, and if the whole reason Anare is going to stay is because of her great friendship for Eowyn, like she can be standing next to her in the scene, like it would help to establish that, like we care about each other.
Right, and Finarfin is essentially going because Fingolfin happened to open up his big trap and promised to do whatever Feanor said to do.
And I think Finarfin should call him on that here. And Fingolfin's like, well, what did you want me to do? Go back on my word? Like, I can't do that. And Finarfin would be like, yeah, but maybe you should. Because Finarfin's the one who's gonna turn around and go back. So if everyone else is acting like, well, once you give your word, you can absolutely never break it. Breaking an oath is the absolute worst thing you could ever do. Finarfin could be like, or you could avoid doing worse things by going back on your word. Just a thought, guys.
Yeah. So we have a I feel like that conversation can be taking place against the backdrop because that puts Fingolfin in the driver's seat of that plot line, right?
Right.
And that feels like the first main scene. It's going on against the backdrop of the Exodus, right? Any other farewells would take place at that time. Who else?
The other significant one is Finrod and Amarie of the Vanyar. And the whole reason she doesn't go is because she's of the Vanyar and they're not married.
Right.
But I feel like that's, if any of them are going to be in flashback, it's that one. Because we don't even really know who Finrod is yet, and we really don't care at this point.
It's probably true.
Well, he's going to be the one who takes Finarfin's place as leader when Finarfin turns back. So when we get to the Doom of Mandos episode, that's essentially when we introduce Finrod. And he's been there the whole time.
Okay.
But we've just never noticed him before. The only one of Finarfin's kids we introduced was Galadriel. She has those brothers who are there, and there's 3 of them or 4 of them. Like, we don't even know how many, and they've just been in the background. And I think we had a scene with Finrod.
We're going to do a lot of that through this series, so it's not. That's completely unavoidable.
It's not bad. It's not a bad way of telling a story where there's just background characters who suddenly become important later, like that. Right. It's kind of neat to find out more about these people who have been there.
Yeah, we just have to hope that the no-name actors that we hire for those roles kind of grow into
their significance.
Yes.
Finrod becomes an important character later, and he's a bit part in season 2. So it's like, whoops. I hope you got a good one.
So so we get that scene. I feel like the next scene should probably be Uinen and Eonwe.
Yep.
Okay. Because we're in kind of calm before the storm mode, right?
Yes. Quite literally. So this is a chance to get the Teleri reaction to the darkening of Valinor. Like, we saw their immediate reaction, like some of the panic when it first got dark, and when people were rushing around chasing Morgoth and all of that. But we didn't really see what that means for them moving forward. Like that they're just going to live in darkness for the rest of their lives, and they're good with that. Essentially, I mean,
Yeah.
like the Teleri are very laid back people. So while there might have been some panic at first, they're like, oh, okay, this is what our lives are now. We're fine. Like they're not still in panic mode, I don't think. And we kind of need to see them being concerned and curious about what's happening, but not really panicked or caring all that much.
Well, the last piece of information that they got was Olmo striding out into the ocean.
Right. So they would like an update on that.
Right.
But they're not like...
That's essentially what they're getting from Uinen in this scene. So we're establishing that the Teleri are concerned, but they're okay. That Olwe has faith that the Valar know what they're doing.
Yes.
Like it never enters his mind that they don't have this handled.
Right. If anything, Olwe can be the one who expresses concern for the elves back in Middle Earth, because that's where Melkor went, back to Middle Earth. You know, like that's what the news he's going to get. Like Melkor's fled east across the sea.
Right.
So he's going to be like, oh, well, that's probably going to be a bad thing for the elves back in Middle Earth. Like, I hope they're okay. Like, Olwe could kind of express that concern. So he's not concerned at all about the Teleri or what's going on in Valinor. He knows everything's fine there. It's just dark.
Yeah.
Like, they can light some torches. They're good. But he's concerned about what's going to happen in Middle Earth now. And that would be a really stark contrast to what the Noldor have been so focused on, which is like our issues and our stuff and our lands, and like nothing about the other elves over there at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So he's showing concern for his kin that were left behind.
Yeah.
Does he mention Círdan by name, do you think?
Well, that's the good question, because he probably isn't going to mention his brother. He's probably convinced that his brother died a long time ago.
Right.
He has no reason to think otherwise.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would think if he's going to mention anyone by name back there, it would have been Círdan, who was the last elf that he said goodbye to, essentially.
Right.
And since we're going to introduce Círdan in episode 3, like having a name drop here might be nice.
Yeah.
Totally irrelevant. If you can't remember who he is, it doesn't matter. Like that scene will still make sense without the name drop, and the name drop helps tie everything together.
Brian says that we could show them adapting to darkness by adding a lot of lamps to like the docks down there at Aqualanda, I think.
Yes, they're lighting the set piece for the battle.
Yeah. This
I'm so sorry.
Terrible.
I know, I'm a bad person. I really like Feanorians, so the one person who does not feel sympathetic towards the Teleri in this battle is, oh, look, me. They're all going to come back anyway. Who cares?
I kept saying that during the...
Well, because...
When they were first saying, oh, it'll be terrible, Olwe will be killed in the kinslaying, I'm like, well, he'll get better. It's fine. He's fine.
If anything, the one thing we need the Teleri to do later on is to eventually send their fleet to Middle Earth.
Right.
For the final battle at the end of the first stage. Yeah. Olwe can do that. Like, he'll be back by then. That's 500 years from now. Well, almost 500. Yeah, it's 500 years from now. So that's plenty of time for him to hang out in Mandos and come back. Yeah. And if people are like, wait, didn't he die? It's like, yeah, well, he got better. He's an elf.
I got better. Anyway. Yeah. David says, question, did Olwe attend the funeral of Finwë? It seems like something that the kings of the kins should do. Maybe let Olwe get some information at that time. So that was back in episode 1. What we had done with that was not having, like, just having the family there.
It was immediate family only.
Right.
Finwë's children and grandchildren only.
Right. So essentially, it was everybody who was at Formanos where they found his dead body, essentially.
Yes.
And they went directly to Lorien from there, rather than going back to Tyrion and then going.
Right. So it wasn't really a state funeral. It was more of a private farewell thing. And they didn't even necessarily know what to do because funerals aren't really a thing in Valinor.
Right.
So that's why it wasn't going to have a lot of pomp and circumstance with it, even though you'd think, kings would honor each other in that way. Like, it's not happened before, so no one like thought to alert the other kings that they should show up.
Right. And Feanor probably doesn't really care.
Feanor doesn't care at all. His brothers and sisters might, though.
Yeah, they might, but
well,
if Feanor is kind of just deciding, okay, we're taking Finwë back to Lorien, and they just go, there's not really a lot of time.
Agreed. It's just that in that immediate family, there is someone of the Vanyar who is related to the king, and there's someone of the Teleri who's also related to the king.
Like the king's wife.
Right.
Also Vanyar, yeah.
Right. Finwë's wife is Indus, who is Ingwe's daughter in our version of the story.
Now she is Ingwe's daughter.
Yes, in our version.
Anyway, okay. So have that as the backdrop for the conversation. You have the lighting of the lamps, so we have a little bit of action there. It's not just two people talking, which is awesome. I kind of like the idea of Eonwe like standing on the whatchamacallit, on the quay, and having like Unin coming up out of the water to talk to him.
Yeah, Unin should not be walking around a palace. Like, that doesn't work. Unin should be in the bay or even out at sea or something. So so if she's come in,
gives us a chance to see the to kind of get a look at the stir that we're going to be using as our action set piece later in the episode.
Yes, this is setting the scene for the audience so they understand what Aqualunde looks like before. So lamps everywhere. Like, the whole place is just lit up like a Christmas tree.
Yes. In the process of being lit up like a Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, they're making that happen in this scene. But
okay.
By the time we have our battle, it'll be very well lit.
So let's go back to Tyrion.
Yeah, okay. So what do we want Eonwe to say?
Well,
that's
here's
the
the
key
thing
that needs to happen.
We need at least one more thing to happen first.
Oh, okay. The final decision to go. Okay, so what's happening in the book at this time is Feanor is rushing everybody.
Yeah.
The Noldor kind of were going to take their time and pack up everything they owned. I mean, they're the craftsmen. They make things. They have a lot of stuff, right?
Right.
So they would have packed it, but Feanor's in a rush. He needs to get him on the road right now because he knows what he's doing is a rebellion. Some of the Noldor haven't figured that out yet, so they think they're just doing a thing and migrating or something. And he knows that he needs to get this underway before the Valar stop him. He knows that he doesn't want his people to cool off and change their mind, and he doesn't want the Valar to get their act together and come stop him. Like, he might have said some really dismissive things about the Valar sitting there doing nothing, but he's not an idiot. He knows that they do stand up, they can easily put a halt to what he's up to. So he's in a rush to get people on the road. So we could show that.
Okay. Can we have a conversation, maybe not necessarily with Feanor, have him be part of the conversation? Okay. Like, show him hurrying people. Show him trying to get people moving. And have a conversation between Maedhros and someone else. To establish Maedhros as one of our protagonists of the episode as well.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, this scene should be further evidence that when Feanor says something, he has 7 little lieutenants who can run out and do everything he just said. So when he says we have to get everybody on the road, all 7 of his sons are getting people moving. So Maedhros should be directing traffic. He should be directing traffic in some way.
Right.
Could contrast it with somebody else, because knowing how diplomatic Feanor's sons are, a lot of them probably are just forcing people to do this. Yeah. Maedhros is just as proud as his brothers, but more diplomatic. Like he knows
Right.
how to get people on his side. So
Right.
he should be able to convince people that they need to get going instead of like pulling out the whips to get
Well, maybe see. So since Caligorm is going to be, and we seem to be setting up Caligorm as a foil to Mithras pretty regularly, but seeing
they have some similarities, physical similarities, definitely.
Yeah.
They're both physically beautiful and strong.
Mm-hmm. And
so he's like actually literally described that way, Caligorm the Fair. I mean,
I just call it like I see it. So
I know.
So Caligorm. So seeing Caligorm aggressively trying to prod people into action and having Mithras come up alongside and be like, "Hey, so yeah, he's a bit of a jerk, but yeah, we kind of need to move and do stuff and things." So
yeah, the brother he's gonna actually tell to shut up in a council meeting later is Caranther.
Yes.
Yes. And Caranther goads their half cousins, Penarfin's kids.
Yes.
So that will happen later. So if he's getting on Caligorm's case right now, then Caligorm is more likable than Caranther.
Right.
Not necessarily better.
Yeah. Well, also Caligorm is someone that we're going to be involving later in the episode. So
yes, with this dog. Yes.
Right. So
okay. Do we want Caligorm to like actually be sicking Huan on people?
No.
At this point? Okay. I'm just asking because Huan is also going to have to make a decision later about what he does about the kinslaying.
Right.
And so we would want to see Huan working with Caligorm here.
Yeah.
And if Caligorm is hounding people out the door, Huan could be nipping at their heels.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, maybe just some like good solid nudges.
So something that would be like almost amusing and would make someone laugh, not something that's disturbing.
Yes.
Yeah, that's all I meant.
Something that would make the audience laugh. It might not necessarily make a person laugh to have like a 300-pound version of an Irish wolfhound give you kind of a headbutt, but the viewer might find that pretty funny.
Okay. So Huan and Caligorm are hurting some people, and Mithras steps in to kind of cool the tempers of the people getting hurted.
Right. Right.
Okay. All right.
Good.
And at that point, we could establish the reasons that. See if. Well, how much of Feanor's fear is going to be vocalized? Because he's going to say, "We have to leave. We have to leave." Is he going to give them a reason why? Like we know why, but does the audience know why? At this point,
because who can he say that to?
Right, like that's something you don't share with the people you're trying to get to rebel secretly.
No, even your most trusted people, like because it shows a lack of confidence, right?
Right, like you just don't say that. So
I feel like we.
Yeah. All right, so we just have to leave that up for interpretation as to why.
Well, our
Feanor's in such a hurry.
Our act 2 is going to be kind of like, because here's the thing, like act 1 is clearly the preparation to leave Tyrion.
Right.
Act 4 is clearly the kinslaying. Right.
Yeah, the whole act.
Act 2 and Act 3 are kind of like a little bit up in the air, because Act 3 feels like it's most naturally the negotiations, right? Yeah,
I kind of feel like the negotiations are almost the midpoint of the episode, though, and that because the kinslaying itself has a few waves to it. So
you feel like there's enough there for us to go to spend a half an hour killing?
Well, that's what we kind of have to talk through, is to figure out how, because action pieces don't take nearly as much time to view as they do to choreograph.
Yeah.
Do we have 15 minutes, 20 minutes, or half an hour worth of kinslaying? I can't say at this point. But I do know we have more than one thing happen. Yeah.
So a couple of comments. I haven't stopped for a break one time. I'm probably going to do that after this.
Like an hour.
Yeah. So Brian said the Sons of Feanor can try to force people to go, but they won't have influence over everyone, as Feanor isn't universally loved. We could show Fingolfin's party is reluctant to be bullied into rushing. Yeah, I pretty much.
And that could explain why Feanor's party gets out the door first, because all the people who actually responded to that are the ones who were on the road right away.
Yeah.
So Feanor gets his...
He also says, but ultimately deciding they have to leave too, because Feanor's party has already left and is going to leave them behind. Dave says, what if Feanor has a pretext for the haste? Every second we delay, Morgoth gets farther away. I don't know if he meant for that to rhyme, but it does.
See, but the idea is, we should start with some kind of innocuous reason that sounds good on paper before we discover what Feanor's real reasons are, if we ever discover that. But.
Right. All right, let's take a break that we should have taken probably about a half an hour ago. But it's cool. So, yeah, if you're watching us live, hang in there. We'll be right back. If you're watching this on YouTube in the future, definitely like and share the videos if you like and want to share them. If you haven't yet, feel free to subscribe so you can find out when these things are actually happening. Hopefully, we'll be able to get more into the swing of things now. Yeah, we'll be back in a minute.